Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to my reading of A Visit from the Makers. "'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the net, not one soul in the hangout. I took off my headset. My router bits hung on the case with great care, in hopes that tomorrow there'll be dust in the air. My kids and my wife all snug in their beds. It's been a great year, I thought in my head. I met a brand new circle of friends, and I thought I should thank them through the camera lens. So here it is, folks, my year in review, a shout out to friends, some old and some new, woodworkers, turners, and makers and such, CNC scrollers, we all keep in touch. It started last Christmas when I met a nice man by the name of Dave Gatton with a CnC Plan. And then came Mark Lindsay with his big old stash. He showed me a hangout. I caught on in a flash. I met Jerry Blakesley, who always looked pissed. He told me to shut up and then broke his wrist. He brought me to Eloy, who lives real close by. A skull for a logo? But a really nice guy. I spoke with Mark Saunders and met Jamie Page, who flew in from England to take center stage. That woodworking show back in March was a trip. I got there on Thursday. Not a day did I skip. I was met in the lobby by the great Izzy Swan. His kindness infectious, a wood pantheon. Chad Grossclaws was there, logistician supreme. He hosted the weekend with true Southern esteem. And later Jim Valentine stopped for a spell. His wit and his humor, beyond parallel. The next day, my friends, and all you wood nerds, was quite overwhelming and well beyond words. I met some woodworkers that day in the hall, and here are some names, celebrities all. I met Southern Ginger, Zach Manring by name, and a talented maker by the name of Wes Swain. I thought I saw Santa. I was filled with elation. And then I met Russ, Simply Wooden Creations. Jason Rausch was there, lovely Shayna as well. Mark Christopher, Frank Sumond, and also Bagwell. Sean Stone and Mike Fulton, Mike Jeffcoat, Bill Griggs, Russ Meadows, Joe Crawford, and Jesse Makes Things. Countryside Wallman, and yes, Maker Size. Billy recycled a barn. That was wise. I rode with Drew Oxford. He had extra space. Old Ox in the shop, with a new baby's face. I ate with Mike Mertzke, a real stand-up guy. My neck is still aching from looking so high. Gib Clark, Little River, Charles Gant, take a look. Dennis Machida, G&G, Johnny Brook. Charles Deering was there with a horse scroll just so. Mitch Dietrich, who makes, and Tony Rouleau. I met Sarah Connor. We sat for a spell. Draws penises, poop, and potatoes as well. Jimmy was there, and he shook my hand. So much to convey, but I understand. I wanted to know him, but time disallowed. The lines long to meet him. I'm not good in a crowd. Met Molly and Dylan, real smart, you'll agree. There's Charlie from Jackbench and Ben Brandt in 3D. Daryl from Dreadnought and David Gunn dropped by. I saw Michael Zerker with his wooden tie. And then something happened. I asked, "What's a lutz?" He gave me this bear hug and squeezed both my glutes. Seymour Make Better stood on top of the Burks. A talented artist. Have you seen his works? Paul Jackman stopped by but never sat down. He looked at the chairs there and started to frown. I got this from Brad. Fix this, build that. I saw Chris Ahern in his cranky old hat. Then what would my wondrous eyes should appear but a tall, thin wood turner, and he's turning a sphere. I saw Carl and Robin, the Jacobsons pair, those two smiling faces, that platinum hair. And speaking of smiling, Carmichael was there, and when Steve smiles at you, you haven't a care. Heath Knuckles walked by, as smooth as can be. I met Sterling Davis, as tall as a tree. And then Nick Zametti, who's known as NZ. Speaking of Nicks, there's Run CMC. I met Shogun Jimmy, There's his autograph. The poem's not over. Here's the second half. That weekend was special. I met all those folks, that fun time we shared, and all of those jokes. I've met many more in those months ahead, perhaps not in person, but in hangouts instead. Here are the rest, in an order so random. I hope you enjoy, and pardon my fandom. There's Morley and Whitaker, Robinson too. They're three of the international crew. Chris Cute is another. I missed him before, the voice of a DJ. And quick wit, what's more. James Phillips, Ed Henry, Nick Ferry, oh boy. Ty Moser, and Leldon, and Braxton and Moy. There's Laney, Michelle, and Elliot and crew. Justin Levine, Brian Bales, 1 and 2. Al Forte, Odessa, Jake Thompson, Dan Brent, Paul's Messy Workshop, and Doc Hildebrandt. We must not forget his Legion of Broom, who along with good Murdoch will sweep his whole room. McGinn and Juan Lopez, Shane and Shelley Cole. There's Brown, Chipser, Martyr, Hebert, and Shafto. I'll stop for a breather and mention Matt Haas. We met at the Wood Show. Our paths barely crossed. Since then we have spoken, and I'll state in italics, we love Doctor Who, and we both hate the Daleks. Ryan's another who I've come to admire, his comedy stylings, his short news crossfire. I'm thankful he's welcomed me onto his crew, but for your sake, for Amy, stop drinking that glue. Jeff Connor and Franzen, Dan Scott, Richard Day, Jack Howling, Marsh Wildman, James Wright, Dylan Tay. Lur. I had to find a rhyme. Ted Alexander and Dave Battershell. James King, wife and daughters. I wish you all well. There's Becca and Donna, some girls from the hood. Jeff Robinson, Dan the Man Quiros, Steve Good. Nick Bodmar, Tech Ed, Canadian Trevor. Herb Lichtenberg, as always, a pleasure. Stephen Twidell once made me a cap. The man's a Picasso, and he won't give a hoot. Except when it comes to those blessed girls and boys. Dig deep in your pockets, let's make them some toys. And Peter Posuelo, the challenge is done. You're better than I am. I stopped at day 1. A few others made it, but none had your humor. If you've heard you won first place, believe it, no rumor. Matt Brander, Larry Duggar, and Jim Poot Bashirs. And Captain Mike Murray, who makes fires disappear. And there's David Jones. No one messes with him. He'll chop up a router on merely a whim. And then there's the Patricks, a ginger young man, a creative genius. Just look at those plans. I hope you're enjoying my small epic poem. If not, just blame Berkey. To love him's to know him. I would like to mention Steve Nealon, my peer. We've spoken once daily for most of the year. To Dave, Steve, and Eloy, I say near the end, I will always be honored to call you all friends. And for those of you whom I have not yet mentioned, perhaps next year give me a bit more attention. For those of you whom I've met and I've missed, there are just so many. Just please don't be pissed. And to all of those listening, I will interject. You all have my friendship, my heartfelt respect. Thanks for the laughter. My smile remains bright. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good night.